Welcome back to the show. We got a great one lined up. How Ripple wins the stablecoin wars because the G20 nation is launching real USD. We got that and so much more. By the way, what's going on with XRP's price? Somebody roll that beautiful intro so we can find out.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and DigPerspectives.com. And guess what? The market is off 1.2%. We're at $3.86 trillion market cap for crypto, way off of the high of $4 trillion plus here. Bitcoin, 111,900 plus. Excuse me, Ethereum, 4,200 plus. And Tether, back at the number 3 spot because the market is sliding. XRP at the number 4 spot is $2.79. Now, I am up against a wall here. We're off 3.9 on the 24. We're off 10.2 on the 7-day. So what do? I bought the last couple dips, and as it works out, every time I buy a dip, the price keeps going down. So I guess the only way for this price to turn around is for me to stop buying the dip. But here's the problem. It's $2.79. I'm buying that dip. I'm going to tell you that right now. Here's the deal, though. Mrs. Backup is home today working. So let's not have her find out that Bradley's buying more XRP. Let's just sidebar that conversation. We'll pick that up later after we've hit some new all-time highs. Then we'll bring it up. Be like, by the way, I bought some more when it was $2.79. That's how we do it at my house. I love her. She's amazing. Let's look at the price ranging between 279 and 292. We're sitting at 280 right now. I gotta tell you, I am salivating. I gotta get this video done. Let's get started right here. It's Caleb and Brown Crypto Brokerage. Let me tell you something. These guys are so amazing. All you gotta do is click the link underneath the video, or just remember this: xrpwealth589.com. Very easy. xrpwealth589.com. You're going to start getting the best night's sleep you've ever had. Why? Because there's no more worrying if you've been hacked or if my transfers went through or if I set my market orders correctly. With Caleb and Brown, you get institutional grade custody at no charge. You get a real person that you can speak with anytime you need support. They've completely eliminated the fear of losing my assets or struggling with self-custody. Caleb and Brown is redefining what service should look like for everyday investors. This is a total game changer, and I'm telling you, it is. You guys know I have a strategy. I never keep all my assets in one place, but this is one of those places, and I absolutely love it, and I have been getting great night's sleep since I've been doing it. You won't know until you do it for yourself, and the link is underneath the video to get started today. Don't mess around. Do it. You're going to love it. Take a look at this. Well, look at this. Gemini, prepare your bags. Remember, just the other day, they teased us with a little XRP news was coming. Well, here we get to see it's an XRP MasterCard, and it's coming out 8/25/25. So just in another 3 days here, we're going to find out exactly what's happening. And you know what? I do have an account with Gemini now, so I may be looking into that for myself. We'll see what the details are when it comes out. Take a look at this. Now, we were talking about how Ripple will win the stablecoin wars. I believe I'm going to show you evidence of that today. The EU is speeding up plans for digital euro after U.S. passes a stablecoin law, talking about the Genius Act, right? And all of this is basically simply saying, we got to hurry up and get our presence in the digital economy because we see what the United States is doing with the Genius Act and how the dollar dominance could really take over and impact all the other countries if they don't too have a presence on the new on-chain economy. Now, with that being said, a reminder right here from Fed Governor Michelle Bowman from digital assets.
As Congress overwhelmingly supported the passage of the Genius Act, these are very acceptable activities, and they're, of course, legal because we're working on developing frameworks that will allow for digital assets to exist both inside and outside the banking system in a way that is unquestionably allowable activity.
No doubt about it. And that is your come one, come all, the green light is on, right? I mean, let's rock and roll, people. And listen, they're not wasting any time. Starting right here in Wyoming, the Governor Mark Gordon of Wyoming on Frontier stablecoin, the first state issued stablecoin. Every state's going to probably do this, and being a state recognized for innovation. Take a listen to this quick clip.
Stable token issued by a public entity. We want to be able to use it for any legal means. We feel that being issued from a state, it's all public. All of our commission meetings, the ones that we've done over the last 2 years to establish this, have been in the open. The whole effort is open source. We have, actually, the day before yesterday, issued it, and it is available on Arbitrum, Avalanche Base, Ethereum, Optimism, Polygon, and Solana.
All of the VC chains that Senator Cynthia Lummis is connected to politically because of Bitcoin, right? I mean, look, all of these things. Look, at some point, it better be on the XRP ledger. I can tell you that. There's no question, because the XRP ledger is going to serve as a national and international payment layer, just the same way that TCP/IP allows people to work on the internet. Write that one down. Right here, I still believe this is possible, and so does Smoke Dog. Shout out to you, Smoke Dog. Give him a follow. Yes, Ripple could still acquire Circle. Don't hastily conclude that Circle's M&A prospects are dead, or that the IPO was enough to take them out of the dangerous waters they could still find themselves in. Potential synergies between Coinbase or Ripple are real, but the deals failed primarily over pricing. So at the end of the day here, what I've been saying, and I'm going to just highlight this very quickly, we're seeing the Fed talk about cutting rates. If we get huge rate cuts, the private issuers make less money because your margin's getting cut, because the interest rate's getting cut. So you're making less money. So it's important not to have a lot of overhead. It's also important to note that Circle has to split 50 to 60% of their profits with Coinbase. So then you have to realize how many other crypto platforms are going to want to cater to USDC, knowing that they're putting profits in their own competitors' pocket by allowing USDC on other platforms like Kraken and so forth. This is the question that is really going to be inhibiting going forward. And if you see the squeeze on interest rate cuts, squeezing the margin from private stablecoin issuers, really making it hard for them to survive and live with a small, thin margin. Then Circle's even smaller because of the 50, 60% they got to shuck over to Coinbase. Then the other competitors that don't want to cater putting money in Coinbase's pocket by proxy, right? Then you start getting down to, well, who can live in a world like that as a private issuer? I can tell you who can. Somebody like Ripple that has multiple different layers of revenue, not just one from stablecoin issuance. So this would just be one angle and one department, one arm of what Ripple does. And that's how I see Ripple winning long term. Now, not only that, but there's more, right? So here's Preston Fish explaining how stablecoin issuers will buy U.S. bonds, sweep them into Bitcoin. Not so quickly on that last half, but nonetheless, he does recognize, rightfully so, that the previous administration bought a lot of short-term debt because they had the economy so screwed up that nobody wanted long-term bonds, right? So take a listen to this.
We're tripping over themselves to pass the Genius Act. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why were these politicians tripping over themselves to get this thing passed? And the answer is really simple. They needed a buyer for all their debt.
Exactly.
And the buyer is the stablecoin issuers. Boom. And it's really kind of interesting to see how that all really transpired and really kind of came to a head is, you know, the government had to start issuing shorter and shorter duration paper because there was no buyers for anything that was long duration because there was so much inflation risk. So they're down there like issuing like 1 month money. And it's like, well, who's going to buy all this 1 month money? Well, you know what? The stablecoin issuers literally, like, they love that because they can back everything. They can gobble up all this new issuance. They don't have the inflation risk that if they were buying 30-year paper, they don't want that inflation risk because they don't know if it's going to be fully backed, right? Or they'd have to keep rolling it to try to, like, manage that. But if it's really short duration, it's actually perfect for them.
It sure is. Then he goes on to say, then the rest of them will take the profits and chuck it into Bitcoin, which is serving his own narrative. We'll see how that goes. And I'm sure some will do that, just like Tether does. But nonetheless, let's get to the larger narrative here, because I've had this conversation with Christian Carlo at XRP Las Vegas 2024. Right, from 2 years ago, a year ago. So this is pretty interesting, but I'm just showing this because, you know, the XRP ledger and G20 nation stable coins, this super highway is the XRP ledger for reference here. And by the way, I've drawn this to scale, right? So, oh boy. I'm also available for fine art and macaroni noodle art, right? Because I'm very good at that too. XRP ledger and G20 stable coins all running on the XRP ledger. And I'm about to show you how that's a very real thing coming to fruition here. And then you have the on and off ramps, which are the toll operators, which are the actual private stablecoin issuers to begin with. This is how they get in and out of this new digital world, right? And eventually everyone will get in the digital world and they will not leave that digital on-chain economy. That's where we're going here. Now, with that being said, I have a few minutes that I need to play for you here from XRP Las Vegas 2024 with Christian Carlo. It is fire, and it explains exactly what we're watching today.
Especially if you go back to the dollar stable coins and you allow this private issuers like financial institutions to have this granted access to create a Bank of America stable coin, a PNC or Wells Fargo, right? So if we have these new use cases for these digital dollars, those entities will be required to have a qualified custodian and hold one-to-one or a surplus. But we're in a situation right now, Chris, where, you know, at home, domestically, and geopolitically, there are a lot of things headed towards an intersection that doesn't look very healthy for us. Just speak to that moment, what that looks like from your digital dollar project chair.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. You know, history is a series of contractions and expansions. If you look at the U.S. approach to money, during the 19th century, it was a very expansive notion. We had states issuing currencies, we had railroad companies issuing currencies, you had mines issuing currencies, and you had the federal government issuing currencies. And then we went through a period of high restriction, which reached an apogee in the 1930s when the Roosevelt administration actually banned ownership of gold. Everything had to be based on a federal notion of value. We've expanded that once again. We have a much more liberal approach to that, and we're in a global world where there's many different instruments of value that are competing. The question is whether we go back to a restrictive period again or whether we go to an open period. And what's going to make the difference is the people. Yeah. At the end of the day, politics does respond. If we're asleep at the switch, if we allow the politicians to have their own way, they will look to restrict things down, because once you have less choice, politicians have more control over it, right?
Unfortunately, with the way things are today, and you look, if we look at the printing, the inflation here at home, we look at the geopolitical conflicts that are happening, the advancement of the Chinese digital yuan, we don't want to see that get white labeled in other countries and so on. Can they avoid, you know what I mean? Like standing on the sideline and avoid being a part of this innovation? You can't.
No, and honestly, they have the right to exercise their economic clout. We don't agree with their value set, but they have a right to we should just be countering that with a better set of values. The sad part is we're not doing that, and so they're dominating the conversation.
So at this point, if we look at, and if we just look at the things that are happening, just the inflation, the money printing, we all in this room know that it's unsustainable. And we don't get an email when it hits that wall. There's a line in the sand when it comes to money. And this is so funny, because as involved as the construct of the financial system is, there's an imaginary line in the sand called confidence. And once it's lost,
absolutely,
that piece of paper isn't worth anything.
That's right.
And what I see coming, and I want you to speak to this from just again, from the Digital Dollar Project. What I'm seeing is this unavoidable moment in the front of us, and there has to be someone at some point has to come forward and allow these new use cases to be happening, like stablecoins, private issuers, because I see like this hyperinflation moment. Now, I'm not trying to be an alarmist. I don't know whether it slides greatly or what's that scale look like. I can't tell you. But everybody knows that it's a high probability of happening. We just don't know how bad it gets, right? But if you introduce this ability for these new issuers to have a stable coin, then they are the ones that soak up like a sponge or a bulkhead that catch these hyperinflated dollars that are coming back home. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you put your finger on it. I think the biggest threat to the American way of life is government money printing.
Yeah.
Everyone here,
There it is. We're talking about the expansion of money before the Fed system was brought in. We're talking about the contraction of money after the Fed system was brought in. We're talking about now we've reached a point in history where the expansion of money and the introduction of new digital assets is here. That expansion of money is here once again. And now we're seeing what? Legislation around the world and here in the United States finally, which is going to allow to harness that expansion of money. And at some point, I believe it will begin to contract that expansion of money. And I believe that because we're seeing it get corralled right now. SBI plus Ripple equals real USD in Japan. $300 billion stablecoin market is set to grow into the trillions. And together with SBI, Ripple is bringing real USD to Japan in early 2026, ladies and gentlemen. That is incredible. And that goes to speak to what I'm talking about here. XRP Ledger and G20 stablecoin presence on that ledger. That is taking shape right now, right here. We already know Singapore is on it. We already know Euro stable coins are on the ledger, and so forth and so forth and so on. It is all happening now. Now, with that being said, let's get here. And the rest of the G20 nations will soon follow Ripple and Japan's SBI into introducing a real USD stablecoin. And I soon believe also a digital yen stablecoin, which is launched on another network and soon to be on the XRP ledger, I believe. You just wait and see. Now, with that being said, right here from Digital Asset Investor, enter X, enter Facebook, enter Amazon, enter Apple, and enter Google. Stage right. Tether becomes the 18th largest U.S. Treasury holder with $127 billion. But enter all of these gigantic players, and you have to wonder, will they use a trusted, highly regulated stablecoin like real USD in the wallets that they issue to every one of their billions of customers? And Charles Hoskinson says it right here. 3 billion people, in fact, will wake up one morning with digital wallets.
There's two bills that are currently being discussed in the House and Senate. The one that's most likely to pass in the next 60 to 90 days is the stablecoin bill. And then
it's signed into law.
Second one's the market structure bill. Once those two bills pass, Apple, Microsoft, Google, Facebook are going to say, hey, we're crypto people now. And so they're going to put wallets in their platforms because they can capture an enormous amount of the market. When you add their user bases of 3 billion people, and when they have those 3 billion users, it's like they have cryptocurrency wallets right in Windows, right in Facebook, right in your cell phone apps, right in iOS, and because they now can legally hold stablecoins and use stablecoins, they're going to do it because they don't like paying the processing fees on credit cards.
Bingo.
So they'll issue their own stablecoins or partner with people to do that, and they have feeless transactions inside the system. And then suddenly these tech companies become financial service providers.
And I wonder if they white label something like real USD and put their name on it, because then you have an issuer backing all of this, like Ripple, and custodying it at BNY Mellon. I'm just saying, this looks a lot like we could, if that happens, then Ripple is absolutely at my house, the Federal Reserve 2.0 in the new digital on-chain economy. It's remarkable. And then here, as Digital Asset Investor says, the XRP ledger needs to be able to scale to serve 7.5+ billion people in the world, according to Arthur Brito, one of the creators of the XRP ledger itself. Looking forward, the XRP ledger needs to be able to scale to serve 7.5+ billion people and even more devices. That was back in June 4 of 2017, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, how about that? And I was just starting to look at the space in April. I remember seeing XRP at thousands of a penny. And I was doing my research. I said, I'm not buying until I figure something out. Well, I messed up there. I should have took a position at 6,000. But I watched it go to 28 cents, and then I FOMO'd all the way to where we are here today, 8 years later. That's a real story, ladies and gentlemen. I can tell you that. Oh, boy. But nonetheless, super exciting. And here we are, and here we sit at 280. And where are we? We're bouncing around in that $265 to $365 channel that Egg Red Crypto has told us all about. And you know what? We get Congress back, and I think we can start talking about that question if we go 20 plus or not, because we got to get this legislation passed. That is the fundamental news that needs to become law, and then we can start to see the institutional money come in like we have never before seen it in history. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. We're going into the Freedom Zone. I hope you will join us. And you could join us in the Freedom Zone today. Just click the link underneath the video. Listen, it's hardly anything to join this group, and it's a great way to support the channel. And I tell you, we're super grateful for every one of you to do. And today we're going to share a little motivational thing in here today, and it's pretty darn remarkable. It's done a lot for me, and I'm hoping it helps somebody that hears it in here today too. I hope you'll join us. Click the link. Join us in Google, or join us on YouTube. Join us in X. Join us on the Patreon. Either way, it's same price, same perks. We'll see you inside. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. Come on in.